Sean is gone now, so I don't know if he'll be coming back. We'll see.
Chair rules, we're going live now.
We have 1 minute until the meeting starts. There he is. Okay. I am going to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Elmhurst Zoning and Planning Commission. First thing I'll need to do, this is the new protocol, it's not so new anymore, for virtual meetings to check to make sure everyone can hear me. Mary Ellen, the court reporter, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mike Kopp, who is in the public comment room, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Eileen Franz, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Emily Egan, can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I can.
All right. Commissioner Uditsky, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Hoffman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner McCoy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mr. David Evans, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Garland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Leanne Meyer-Smith, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Commissioner Pittman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Sean Benson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Todd Schmidt, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right. I will ask Eileen Franz to call the roll in order to establish a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns is not present. Commissioner Callaway is not present. Commissioner Garland?
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Here.
Commissioner McCoy?
Here.
Commissioner Pittman?
Here.
Commissioner Snyder is not present. Commissioner Uditsky?
Here.
Chair Rose?
Here.
And I see that Commissioner Burns just joined us. So Commissioner Burns, can you confirm that you are present?
Here. And can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. We have a quorum. Excellent. The next item on our agenda is public comment. This is the time for anyone to make a public comment on any matter of zoning they wish to discuss. Before we do, I need to ask Eileen Franz or Emily Egan to check voicemail and email to see if anyone wishes to make a general public comment at this time.
There are no emails. If Emily wouldn't mind checking my phone to see if there's a voicemail.
And Mike, I will confirm with you that there is no one in the public comment room who wishes to make a public comment.
That is correct. No one is here.
Great, thank you.
And there are no voicemails for public comment.
We will then close this portion, really of the meeting at this point. The next item of business is receipt of written communications. Do we have any written communications?
No, just the information submitted by the applicant and one interested party for the case on the agenda.
Okay, excellent. All right. The next business for the committee then is the approval of the December 15th minutes. Can I have a motion to approve and a second to approve these commission meetings?
I approve.
Commissioner McCoy moves in a second. Commissioner Pittman seconds. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections that anyone wishes to make on the minutes? No? Commissioner McCoy, our eagle eye on the minutes. They look good to you, so we're good. I will then ask Eileen Franz to please call the roll for approval of the minutes.
Thank you. Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Garland,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Ditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. Thank you. The minutes are approved. The next item of business is the major item that we will have this evening, case number 20P17 Lincoln School at 565 South Fairfield. I will ask Eileen Franz to please introduce this case to us.
Thank you. This is case 20P17. The application was filed September 30th, 2020. The request is a conditional use permit for a planned development with site development allowances to demolish and reconstruct Lincoln School. The applicant is Sean Benson of White & Company, who filed on behalf of Elmhurst School District 205, and White & Company is the company who with the engineers and architects for the project. The legal notice was published for this case November 12th, 2020. The sign was posted November 11th, 2020, and the mailing was done November 13th, 2020. This was originally scheduled for December 1st, then continued to December 15th, and then continued to this evening, which is January 5th, 2020. And I do have a couple quick comments before this is turned over to the applicant. There was one item in the staff report that I did not have when the staff report was posted on Friday. The existing building height for Lincoln School is 37 feet, 5 inches. And the applicant anticipates that the proposed building height will be 32 feet with the mechanical screening height max at 38 feet. And they are using 39 feet just as to be safe. To also clarify, this is actually not a site development allowance. The height limit in this district is 35 feet, and there is an allowance for the mechanical equipment. So it technically is not a site development allowance, though it was pointed out as one in the applicant's request. The site development allowances are for parking in the setback and building coverage.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask the court reporter now to swear in everyone who intends to speak on this matter this evening. That would be all of the petitioners. If you will allow the court reporter to please swear you in. Mary Ellen.
Will you raise your right hands, please? Do you all solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
Okay. Thanks very much. I'm now going to hand this over to who will be the major speaker for the petitioner at this point. Is this Sean Benson?
It'll be me and Leanne Meyer-Smith from White.
Okay. I'm going to ask you then, you understand the criteria. It's first the conditional use and then the full plan unit development. Those are the criteria you'll be meeting and discussing today. So I will hand it over to you. Are you going to want us to share your screen?
Sean's.
Yeah, I will share my screen.
Okay, I'm going to have to make you the host, Sean. I'm going to have to share. Hold on. Okay. So. All right.
Still not working.
Okay. Eileen, can you give me a little bit of guidance on how to do this? I'm going to. Made him co-host. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, Mr. Benson, please go right ahead.
All right, can everybody see the PowerPoint presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Leanne, you want to start or you want me to jump in?
I can start. So thank you very much. I'm Leanne Meyer-Smith with White & Company, Vice President of Architecture, leading the team. And we're very excited tonight to present the new Lincoln School for the Elmhurst School District. I'll start out a little bit by telling you about the school. You can see it's a brand new school. It's going in the similar location to where the existing school is. The existing school will be removed starting around June, dependent on the COVID schedule and students being back into the building. It'll take a little bit over a month to remove the existing building, and then the new construction will start, and the building will be completed in fall of 2022. So we're very excited about that. Next slide, Sean.
Sorry. There we go.
There you go.
So this is the existing site. Everyone's probably familiar with. It's about 3.36 acres and surrounded by Montrose to the north there, Hillside to the east, Follett to the south, and Fairview on the west side. On the south side of the building, there's a large hardscape play area and playground. On the north side, there's an existing 51 parking space parking lot, as well as some open space and green space. I'm not echoing, am I? I'm getting some feedback.
Yeah, you are. You're echoing.
Here, hold on. I'm going to put my phone on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if that helps. If not, Leanne, I'd mute you.
There we go. Can you guys hear me?
I'll mute me.
Still getting some feedback. Make sure let's mute everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, that should be better.
Is that better? Or is it me? No. Is that better, guys?
A little better.
Okay. So that's the existing site. And there's existing 524 students and 60 staff members at the site. A few photos of the existing site. The first one there in the top left is the existing parking lot. And the top right there is looking north, southeast towards down Fairfield there of the building. The existing photo at the bottom left is the west entrance. And then the existing photo on the right there is the entrance on the east.
So this is the,
Quick,
oh, you got it?
Before you go on, it looks like, Sean, you're on your phone, or are you on, how? It looks like you're on a phone
here.
As opposed to.
Yeah, I'll jump on the computer. Hold on.
Yeah.
See if that works.
Yeah, being on your phone is not working here.
Yeah. Join with computer audio.
Do not use your phone audio.
Yeah, 1 second here.
Gotta love Zoom.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, but you still got issues. Can you not use your computer audio? Is that the issue?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Dave, you want to jump in there and talk about this? Maybe I'll see if I can fix this here.
Sure.
Yeah. You're sharing your screen still, Sean? I don't think oh, there you go. Thanks. Got it.
Okay. All right.
Can you go back one slide to the site plan? There you go.
Okay. And then David, Russell will take over the,
I don't see Dave Evans. There you go. I'll talk a little bit about the site plan. So the site plan, you can see that north is to the right to Montrose Avenue. And as we mentioned before, the way the building is sited is that the new school building is in the center of the site, with the parking area being to the south, to the left, as well as the storm detention is below the parking area. To the right is a play surface for the children and a playground surface. So we're keeping the occupied children activities to one side and the vehicular parking activities to the other side of the school for safety. A little bit later in the presentation, Sean and Dave will go over the actual traffic flow, but the front of the school is pretty similar to where it is now along Fairfield. This is the main entrance that you can see. And students arriving and being picked up will have a drop-off lane, taking a lot of the cars off the neighborhood streets and putting them onto the site itself. So there'll be a double lane, safe pickup and drop-off lane that Dave Evans and Sean will talk about a little bit more in detail. And we'll also show the building in a minute as well. Next slide. So this is a diagram where we were asked to compare and show the existing building footprint compared to the proposed building footprint, which is very interesting. The red with the gray infill is where the existing school is, and the blue outline is the outline of the new school. So they're very, very similar, about 10,000 square feet of difference. But what's interesting is the existing school has 2 to 3 levels, depending on where you are in the building, and it's a half a level down below the ground in some areas. So the new building is all above grade. There's no basement. It's 2 levels. So that's why the height is kind of matching up to what we have now, and we're not going to be any taller or really much different in volume or mass than what the existing building is. Next slide. So this is looking at the floor plans. On the right-hand side, we have the main level, the first floor, and on the left-hand side, we have the second level. The main entry coming in, I'll just tell you a little bit about that off of Fairfield Avenue. We have the administrative functions, main office, secure entry vestibule, on one side of the main entry, and on the other side we have student services area. Entering into the building, you'll note that there is a main circulation spine, which we're calling Uptown, and that joins you into a large open dining area and a gymnasium that has 2 teaching stations, which also serves as the storm shelter. In Illinois, we are required in new schools to have a storm shelter. And in this school, it will be the gymnasium space, multi-purpose space. Then to the right of this main circulation spine, you'll see these, what's in a orange kind of peach color. These are the neighborhoods. Each grade level has its own neighborhood, kindergarten, first and second on the main floor. And when you go upstairs, we have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. They all have a collaborative living room connected to the Uptown, which on the 2nd floor leads to the media center, and all of the special programs, music, makerspace, art, and a flex community classroom are on this level. In the middle, connecting the dining area to the media center on the 2nd floor is an open learning stair where students can gather and collaborate and have small presentations between the dining and the media center. Very popular concept in modern 21st century schools at this point. Next slide, Dave. And this is the view from the front from Fairfield. Looking at the materials, kind of taking off of some neighborhood colors, some warm panels, as well as some brick. And you can ever so slightly see some friendly, kid-friendly accent colors around the windows. Next slide. This is the view from Montrose, looking at the neighborhoods. And you can see between each neighborhood right here, and then between each other of the other neighborhoods is an outdoor collaborative classroom area that is enclosed and fenced in, so that we can have each neighborhood has a outdoor classroom where they can come directly down and extend their learning to the outside, weather permitting. Next slide. These are the more flattened, more architectural and elevations, just kind of to show you the heights in the entire building if it were flattened and you were standing far enough back to see it. We just did this to illustrate and document the height of the building. As we talked about, most of the building is 32 feet tall. And then where we have just a couple, there's 1, 2, 3 rooftop unit areas that are screened. Those are at, we estimate, right here in the middle. We estimate those could be about 38 feet, could be a little less. We're using 39 feet till we actually get the equipment bid out and selected. We wanted to be safe with that. Next slide. And this just shows the Fairfield side and the south elevation. This is that gymnasium storm shelter piece, the main entry as well, and a service entry on this side. Okay, next slide. I believe that's you, Dave.
All right, so here's another look at the site plan. Leanne touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'll go into a little more depth. So first, for some of the allowances that we're requesting, the parking setback allowance, you can see on the west side, parking is 10.3 feet off the property line. The southeast corner is 10 feet off the parking or off the property line, and then the east side is 10 feet as well. So that's the parking setback allowance that we are requesting. Again, we have trying to isolate the children from the vehicle traffic. So on the north end, you can see there we have the hardscape play area with some basketball courts and other pavement marking activities. The bike racks are also located at the northwest corner, and then the playground is located at the northeast corner. Again, there's 3 outdoor collaboration areas / classrooms for the children, each of the little pods. Those are along the east side there. You can see all 3 of them. All 3 of those are also fenced in, so they're kind of isolated from the right of way. The parking area down in the south, that will have the underground detention underneath that. Along with the parking, there's all along the west side, the south side, and the east side. Those parking spaces are actually going to be permeable pavers. We'll be using that as part of our stormwater management plan. The other stormwater management plan that we'll be using is a bioinfiltration trench. That'll be along the east side of the building, along Hillside there. You can kind of see there's 3 rectangles between the building and the property line there. Those will be the bioinfiltration areas. Sean, go ahead and hit the next slide there. Here's a look at the landscape plan. We do have landscaping shrubs all along the perimeter of the parking lot. This is to help screen the vehicles from the adjacent houses in the neighborhood. And then we will have a series of additional plantings and trees and foundation plantings all around the building. We also have 3 landscape islands within the parking lot. Those will consist of shrubs and plantings as well. Next slide, Sloan. All right, so here's a look at the current drop-off and pickup operations in the morning and then the afternoon. So starting on the east side of the building on Hillside, cars go from north to south. It's a one-way during pickup and drop-off operations. They drop off, along the curb line there. On the west side, Fairfield, it's the same. It's a one-way going from south to north. Those vehicles also drop off along the curb line there. Montrose and Villette are closed during these so that vehicles cannot go down those. So cars are really isolated to one way, on Fairfield and on Hillside. Next slide, Sean. So here you can see from the traffic report that we had done, you can see the stacking and the amount of vehicles that take place both in the morning and in the afternoon. So for the morning drop off on Hillside, there's approximately a maximum of 27 vehicles that are queued on Hillside at any one point. That starts on Hillside from Willette Street and wraps all the way back up to Prairie. And then if you look at Fairfield, the same thing, there's a maximum of 11 vehicles queuing at any one time. That goes from the main entrance to south just past Willette Street. And then for the afternoon pickup, again, the same thing, cars queue on Hillside, but for the afternoon pickup, there's a maximum of 52 vehicles queued at any one time. So you can see that it starts again on Willette and goes all the way north to Prairie, but then also continues west on Prairie. There's a lot more vehicles queuing on Prairie during the afternoon pickup. And then for Fairfield, you can see again from the main entrance further south all the way to Crescent Avenue, cars are queued during this time. That's a maximum of 20 vehicles based on the traffic report. Next slide, Sean. So here's a diagram showing the proposed drop-off and pickup operations for the proposed improvements in the new school. So cars will continue again on Hillside, one way from north to south, but they will be directed going west onto the new on-site drive and circulation. So you can see the green line here. They go south on Hillside and then make a right onto the site, and then we'll drop off in the dark blue area there by the main entrance. And then they will continue out on the Fairfield going north, and then they'll take a left on the Montrose. So this is basically showing that we're getting a lot more cars off of the public right-of-way and onto the site. So drop-off will consist on-site instead of along the curb lines on Hillside and Fairfield Ave. Next slide, Sean. So here's another diagram showing the actual queuing for both of these. So in the morning drop-off, again, the cars will line up on Hillside and come onto the site. So this on-site circulation drive that we're proposing actually takes 17 additional vehicles off the street from the current conditions. There's a maximum queuing of 23 vehicles in this new circulation drive. And then in the afternoon, again, the same thing. There'll be 11 additional vehicles taken off the site as compared to the existing current conditions. And the on-site circulation drive can handle approximately 23 vehicles. So there'll still be queuing on Hillside and Fairfield, but it'll be reduced compared to what's there today. Next slide, Sean. And again, this is just some of the safety improvements, including on-site signage, pedestrian crossings, no parking. A lot of the existing signage on Hillside and Fairfield will remain, so those won't change, but there will be additional on-site signage and traffic control to help for the safety of the children and everybody on site. Next slide, Sean. I think that's it. Leanne, did you have anything else you wanted to add? All right, yeah, so at this time then, any questions that anybody has?
Okay, so that's your presentation? Okay, great.
Correct.
We will now, I'm going to ask you to quit sharing your screen unless people if they want to get back to that. But we're now going to go to the commission and ask for questions from commissioners. So I actually will start off. I'm curious about that entrance into the site on Fairfield, the southernmost part of Fairfield. Is that an exit and entry, or what? Can you please explain that one for us a little bit?
Yeah, so that will be an exit and entry. It's not intended to be used during drop off and pick up operations. So in the morning and the afternoon, but it is an in and out during other parts of the day for teachers and for visitors and such.
So that will be signed so that it's clear that's not an entry and exit for drop off or for parents to use. That's going to be pretty clearly signed then.
Yes, that's the intent there, and there will be school staff out there to help direct traffic as well.
Okay. Commissioner Uditsky.
Yeah, can you elaborate a little bit on the stormwater detention? I'm sure if this wasn't a Zoom, we'd probably have a slew of people in the audience and everybody would be asking about stormwater detention. So, the existing ball fields, I'm sure, absorb a lot of the stormwater. So now we're basically putting all of that under the parking lot. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And just in terms of how the volume, I suppose, of stormwater detention in the existing conditions versus the plan that you guys are proposing?
Sure. Yeah. So we've actually gone into the city of Elmhurst for engineering and stormwater review already. We don't have final approval yet, but we have had multiple rounds of comment and have addressed all their comments. So currently there's no on-site detention. So the water runs off freely. With the proposed improvements, we are putting best management practices and underground detention. As I said, the underground detention will be in a concrete vault underneath the parking lot on the south side. So that will hold, pull this up real quick. That'll hold 1.51 acre feet of detention. And then we'll also have additional BMP volume being provided within the permeable pavers, which are all along the west side, south side, and east side parking lot. And then the biofiltration trenches along the east side of the building. That provides an additional 0.25 acre feet of volume. So that gives us a total of 1.75 acre feet of detention volume that wasn't there currently. And all of this runoff will be restricted. So the proposed release rate will be 0.34 CFS as compared to the current site has no restricted, so it free flows. So give me 1 second here, pull this up. And again, we do have a series of sewers throughout the site. I don't think we showed the utility plan, but there's storm sewers that convey storm runoff all along the west side, east side, and south side of the building. So we did increase the hardscape slightly, but since we are collecting it all and reducing it, it'll be a benefit to the local area for, to help prevent flooding and to the local storm sewer system in general.
Okay. Any other, Commissioner Pittman?
Thank you, Chair Rose. I had a few questions. One, you guys increased the parking, which then obviously affects your layout of your parking on the south end of the site. I guess my first question is, do you feel that all those additional spaces are needed?
Yes, so we are meeting the zoning requirements for the amount of spaces required. And Todd, I don't know if you had any thoughts about the current parking situation there and the school's needs.
Well,
Hey,
currently, go ahead, Sean.
Am I still echoing? Can you guys hear me?
You're okay.
So, so the proposed parking lot, 80 spaces, we need 65 to meet zoning code because the maximum capacity for staff we're projecting to be 65. And then in the traffic study, I think Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but the maximum demand at the max capacity of the school is 74 spaces, and then we need 4 ADA. So we're right there with the 76 standard spots and then the 4 ADA. And then obviously for events, that parking will be filled and street parking will still be needed. So I think that maybe the minimum we'd want to propose is the 80 spaces.
Okay, thanks. I guess the reason I ask is Lincoln's a very unique school in Elmhurst. I believe that it's the only school where all four elevations of the school, or all four sides of it, face the front of residential properties. All the other schools in the district have either backyards or a main street, or they back up to another school or a park. So I think there has to be an extreme amount of sensitivity to that. It seems like there's a lot of support for the school and what has been done so far. There was only one letter that we received that I'm aware of, and correct me if there's been anything additional. I'm not sure that we'll hear from anybody tonight. Maybe we will, but there was somebody on Villette that did voice concern about granting the parking setback of the 10 feet. And I recognize that, you know, you're trading pavement for pavement. There's existing pavement in that capacity there now. And you're just proposing now using that pavement instead of a play area for parking. And for the most part, I think that that's probably okay. You're not going to get too many people parking, I think, at the night hours, except for special events in which people might then now see lights shining into their home that they wouldn't. But I guess I asked the question about the parking to see whether there was any room to maybe eliminate spaces and make that buffer a little bit better. I know at Edison School, there's quite a big buffer between the residential area, and it's burned. And I think that's been a really effective way to bridge into the residential neighborhood. And with what you have there currently, there's not enough room to do that berming. So I guess that was where my question came from regarding the parking and whether you needed all those spaces.
Yeah, there is. We don't have as much room as Edison. Dave, we are providing 12 to almost 24 inches in a little area, a little bit of a berm, not much as Edison. We tried to mimic that, but we are providing the screening with the evergreen shrubs, which will get to at least 4 feet, height to provide a solid screen to the residents.
Thank you. Any further questions, Commissioner Pittman?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your concern about this because it is a pretty unique situation. Commissioner Hoffman, you had a question?
Yes, a pretty tight campus. And as somebody who lives a block away, I guess my question revolves around, again, I'm going to get back to parking. As you're looking at snow removal issues potentially at this site, and with the essentially removal being a push to the perimeters, you end up losing a significant amount of parking spaces when this happens in a large snow event. What is your plan to address that? You're looking at carting snow off the site. You just don't have the flexibility with this design that you do in the current. So just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, okay, look, we'll have some depressed curbs, and we'll push the snow off to the edges of the parking lot. We may lose a couple spots, but we plan that we'll probably have to be carting some of that snow off of that site because it is a very tight site. So depending on the snow event, there may be losing a few parking spots for a couple of days until we're able to go out there and remove that snow and cart it off.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns, you had a question?
Thank you. Couple of questions. One is with regard to the parking study. I did note that it cited the COVID conditions as one inhibition to collecting current accurate data that would apply to what we assume will be post-COVID conditions once the school opens. So I just want to delve a little more into the process of developing the traffic and parking estimates. Were there interviews with school officials, and did they have any data that you could rely on?
Yeah, so we had multiple meetings with the school. So we met with the principal, Todd, and other administrative and staff. We also met with Eric Russell from KLA, helped interview some of the local residents and parents that are actually on, that help out the school during pickup and drop off. I don't know if they're crossing guards, and I think, Todd, you have parents that help during that operation. So I know Eric talked to them as well. So with all those interviews and getting all the information and data, and also KLA, they use standard projections for walkers, and they also used my observations when I went out there, counted cars. But yeah, it was just an at the time with COVID and everything, weren't able to get the exact traffic counts, and we wouldn't be able to get that until the operation gets back to normal. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I think it's always good to try to get actual data versus just, out of a manual, so to speak. So I appreciate that. My other question is just more out of curiosity. The classrooms, the neighborhoods, so to speak, are all on the east side of the school. Is that because of daylight, to get more sunshine in the morning? Or is there any particular reason where those will, versus being on the west side?
Yes, that is partially true. We like the softer light of the morning. Plus, we wanted to break down the scale of the building along that side and be a little bit further from the main entry as we zone the building for noise. So, yeah, good observation about the sunlight.
Thanks. And I had one other question about the square footage. You're going to about 44,000 square feet from about 34,000 feet existing. So that's about a third more, roughly. But the student population is not expected to grow commensurately, I don't believe.
Correct.
So is it more program space?
Correct. And that square footage is only the main level. We have another level. That was just the first floor comparison on that square footage. But yes, the reason for increasing the square footage is not for a growth in students. We don't anticipate that. It's really to modernize the way teaching and learning happens in schools, more collaborative spaces, a little bit bigger classrooms. When we brought in technology in the schools, they need different kinds of support, a bigger library, and a makerspace. Some of the programs that they can't do right now, we've added.
Okay.
Yes.
And so just to follow up, one last question on the outdoor meeting space or collaborative space. There was one view that was looking, I think it would have been a southwest view from Montrose.
Yes.
And it was showing a fenced area, but in the illustration, the fencing ended with the first neighborhood to the north. Would the fencing actually continue all the way south to cover all three of the classroom neighborhoods?
So the first neighborhood that you're referring to off of Montrose in the corner, that neighborhood falls in the larger fenced area that encloses the play space. So on that rendering, it shows that way. The other two outdoor play areas have a fence between the buildings, between the neighborhoods. So they have separate fencing. Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
One thing I just want to add on that, the enrollment may increase on this because we are going to all-day kindergarten.
Oh, a little.
There's a couple more classrooms out there because of all-day kindergarten. And also in this current design, we have what we call 2 community rooms, bubble rooms, what have you, that are extra spaces that the building can use. But if we do see an increase in enrollment, we already have space within the building. So I just kind of want to clear that out.
I think the school is at about 524 now, and we could be at, if we filled all the spaces and the flex spaces that Todd is talking about, could be at 600.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I saw those fences in between, but I have a question that really is related with Commissioner Burns, and it's kind of a concern generally in the community. I understand that institutions such as schools and churches, we generally have not, we've been more liberal in our thinking about lot coverage, but you all are asking for 30.4% lot coverage. And in all those districts, it's at 30%. Just curious, had you thought about trying to keep it to 30% or the necessity of that 0.4%? On a residential lot, 0.4% is not much, but on a lot this big, it's a significant amount. So I'm just curious what you were thinking about why it goes above the 30% for us.
I think with the planning and keeping to fit all the program needs, we tried to be as tight and cohesive as we can. Really this design is very tight. There's not a high percentage of circulation. We're using a lot of the circulation as common space. So we didn't really intend to exceed, but we feel that with the scale of the building and breaking it down with some of the materials, we're hoping that that extra 4% will not be adverse to the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's not as much as 4, it's only 0.4.
0.4, yes, correct. Thank you.
But, it's always been an issue, so.
Yeah.
Other questions by commissioners? Commissioner Garland.
Thanks, Chair Rose. A quick question regarding and I want to tie this back to the referendum that the community voted on. And so can you share to what extent, if at all, are there material differences between what was just presented here and what was voted on by the community?
Todd, do you want to answer that one?
Maybe I understand the question, if I think I understand it. We looked at, with the referendum, was to build a 4-section facility, a brand new Lincoln Elementary School, approximately $32 million. This facility basically checks all the boxes that we were looking at for making sure it was a 4-section building, make sure we had some extra space in case enrollment increases, so we wouldn't have to put portable trailers anywhere. It covers the stormwater management, and it really gives it flexible learning spaces that we need with some of those other areas, the maker spaces, the outdoor gardens, the storm shelter, and everything else that we need. This hits exactly everything that we said in the referendum for a new school. This checks all the boxes and some.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from commissioners? Okay, I have one more question. This is the new PUD process is holding these community meetings beforehand as opposed to afterwards. So I read the description of that. Can you just give me and most of it really had to do, I think these are issues for the school district, not necessarily for zoning, but a sense of the tone of that meeting. What was your sense of neighbors? It went all the way from I want to help in any way, which was lovely, to other ones that were not quite so kind. So just your sense of what was the tone of that meeting, of neighbors who came to that meeting?
I'll start, Todd, and then you can add. It was very, very positive. In our practice, we do this a lot all over the Chicagoland area. And being on Zoom, we were really skeptical as to how it would be. We didn't know if the callers would be, participatory, complimentary, or just, unleashing. Very, very, very positive. Even people that brought up a comment that, could have been perceived negative, they were so polite and really were just looking for information. It was a great evening. What do you think, Todd? Yeah.
You're spot on. It was a good one. There was a couple things in there. They're talking about the stormwater management.
Yeah.
One of them talked about the parking, but they like the concepts of the building. They understand. Couple of them were concerned that we're losing some of those baseball fields up there, but we have to do that. But it was a really positive meeting. They liked the concept. They liked the new school. And
you know, you're lucky. In essence, you're just exchanging one building for the other. So it's not like you're introducing something that's incredibly new into this community, this neighborhood, and people, you know, really want to see this school redone. So I mean, I think that's positive. So it's hard to get a sense from this. So Commissioner McCoy, you had a question, or?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair Rose. I was just wondering about the lighting in the parking lot, how that was, you know, talked about, or because I know one of the neighbors, one of the letters was they were concerned about the lighting. And what type of lighting is going to be in the parking lot?
It's all LED lighting out there, and what we've been doing is there for the lighting at night, it will reduce down to, Ramsey's not here, our electrical engineer, but it reduces down to about 5 to 10%, and they do have occupancy sensors on them. So if somebody is walking or a car goes through there, then it goes. But we made sure that all the lights did not protrude outside of the property, but kind of stayed within.
The heads have cutoff shields so that we keep any of the light, even after it's reduced, onto our property line. So yes.
Yeah, we provided with the zoning submittal photometric plan to show that at the property lines we meet the proper foot candles. I think there's a minor revision that we owe Eileen to that, but there's not going to be an issue getting that back to her, that minor revision for it.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Uditsky.
So you mentioned the baseball fields, and you may not know the answer to this, maybe staff does, but so I'm assuming the baseball fields are part of the property. In other words, they're owned by the school district and not the park district?
Correct.
Correct, yes.
That is correct.
There wasn't necessarily any coordination or land transfer that had to happen with the,
No.
I know Elmhurst is a big baseball community and people get awfully protective.
Yes, they do.
About that kind of stuff. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Other questions from commissioners? Okay. We need to check about public testimony. So has anyone either emailed, I see no one in the public comment room. Has anyone either emailed or voicemail? Any questions or any comments that anyone wanted to make? Emily is going to be checking voicemail, correct? Yeah.
Yes, Emily is checking my voicemail. There are no emails.
There are no voicemails either, Chair Rose.
Okay, thank you very much. Then there's nothing for you to respond to. I'm going to give the commissioner commission one last chance. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at this point. And it has been our practice, despite this is a larger project, normally on a larger project, we would not necessarily consider deliberation, but it has been a more recent practice. If we we'd like to deliberate as quickly as possible. So let me poll commission members and ask if anyone has an objection to deliberation on the petitioner's request this evening. Okay, seeing none, we will move into deliberation at this point. What we'll need is a motion and a second to, in the positive, to approve the plan unit development application, which also includes, as you know, the conditional use, meeting those standards as well. So can we have a motion to approve and a second to that? This may take us a minute. Commissioner Burns, you're going to move?
Yes.
Thank you. A second to that? Do we have a second? Commissioner Pittman. Thank you. Commissioner Burns, I will let you have the lead on this.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen has a comment.
Just briefly, I just want to clarify that the motion would also include the site development allowances.
Site development, right. So it would be to approve the plan unit development application, which includes a conditional use and the site development allowances, really for parking and for lot coverage. Thank you. Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. I'll start with the site development allowances. Since these seem to be, the major issues apart from the standard plan development standards. In terms of the parking, with the reduced setback, as was mentioned before, to some extent, this is trading paving for paving. It's the function that's different. And with the function bringing more cars to the south end of the entire site, and with the one neighbor who mentioned that they'll be looking at an 80-car parking lot and hoping for screening, I believe that the screening will be adequate. We have 4-foot evergreens that create a dense barrier that will be high enough to block out the headlights, et cetera, for the most part, and provide good screening. I believe that's standard practice for parking lots in many areas of the Chicago area. So I think that's adequate. On the site coverage, the 0.4% additional coverage, it is over our 30% standard. I was doing a little math here, 3.66 acres and how many square feet, and 0.4, I think it was about a 700 square foot difference on 3.7 acres. I'm sure they looked at all the ways that this building could be designed, and if it fits all the best standards and is just barely over the criterion. I think, especially because this is an institutional use, it's very important to a large part of our population that we can live with that. So with that, I'll just turn to the conditional uses and the standards for plan development. So our 7 conditional uses, I won't go through them individually. As you recall, these standards really talk about how the property either pertains to our zoning requirements internally or how it affects the world outside of itself. And I believe that it meets all of those standards. I invite any of the other commissioners to point to any particular standards they have issues with, but I believe it meets all those standards. So then as we proceed to the particular plan development standards, the ones that are really standing out to me are numbers 6 and 7, parking and traffic, and 7 is adequate buffering. The parking and traffic is probably the major issue with the buffering just behind it. We did have, I think, a good, robust discussion of the parking and traffic, what the sources of the information were to create the analysis. It does appear they will be taking cars off the street from the existing condition to circulate them onto the site, which is good practice. Actually, this reminded me a little of our discussion of Culver's a little earlier this year. So I believe that the parking and traffic has been accommodated satisfactorily. And again, the buffering, having that screening around the parking lot in particular, as well as around the whole site, is good practice. And I believe that standard is met. So for my purposes, all of the standards for the conditional use, the plan development standards, and the site accommodations are met.
Thank you. Commissioner Pittman?
Thank you. I agree with everything that Commissioner Burns has stated. I think that, this is a true infill site, and it's a tight site. There's some things that, I'd like to see. It would be nice to have more green space and maintain the baseball fields or some more open green area, but I recognize that that's not necessarily an option given what is needed in terms of the school there. And so I think that they are hitting everything that's required. And I would say regarding the parking setbacks also that, again, I had mentioned, you're trading pavement for pavement. I might have a bigger issue if those areas that were being designated as parking was an open field. I might have a bigger issue with granting those, but since it is pavement for pavement, and also in the staff report, they do mention that the setbacks historically have been applied to or established specifically for structures versus the parking lots. So I think that's important to note as well. So I am in favor of approving this.
Yeah. I think, I've generally been a stickler about the 30% lot coverage. But in this situation, I'd like to say again, this is institutional use. We've not really applied that to churches, schools, and while it may seem small to us, the 0.4%, that thank you for doing the calculations, Commissioner Burns. That's a lot of space for a school, for a site this large. It would be different if it was, again, an individual lot where we could say to the homeowner, look, you got to bring this down to 30, but this is, that's a few inches off of here or there, but that's not the case with this. So I think that it's reasonable that they considered it. And I'm also impressed with the fact that nobody at this community meeting brings this up at all. So I think that's, this is the time when to be a stickler about a particular thing, it would not be very useful. So I appreciate the work on that. I also am a really big advocate for buffering where parking is concerned. I think the reality is it's not just the lights, it's looking at a lot of parked cars where before you might have seen kids playing around, but I think the neighborhood there fully understands what this is, and they're supportive of having a school there. The buffering that is suggested, I think, is reasonable, and we're not going to see, in the summer, you're not going to see cars there when people want to sit out in their front lawns or people want to walk around. That's not when this parking lot is being used. It's really during the daytime hours. So I would agree with both Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Pittman that they meet really the conditions of the conditional use and the PUD, the plan unit development, along with the site development allowances, I think are not out of bounds, and I think they're reasonable given this. This is, they're really trying to shoehorn a modern school into a site that's been there for a school for how many years has it been there? It's easily, I want to say probably 70, 75 years it's been there. It's been there at least 50 years, but I'm curious if you know how long that has been a school site. Leanne, do you know?
Going on 100 years, I do believe.
100 years, right. So time flies when you're having fun. So I'm thinking it's 70 years, but yeah, it's certainly been. So people in that neighborhood, they know what this is. They support a local schools are big. I'm pleased to hear our residents were that polite about this. I think that's great. So, they're all concerned about when is this going to start and how our kids are going to be disrupted. And I think District 205 has really been working on that particular plan for a long period of time. So I we'll see what happens. So, but I absolutely support this as well. So other comments from commissioners, thoughts about this? Okay, seeing none. All right, I will ask City Planner Eileen Franz to please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Ditsky,
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. Therefore, the motion passes. This will now go back to DPZ. Eileen, when?
Yes, I think it will probably go this coming Monday, the 11th, but I will confirm that with the applicant tomorrow.
Okay, great. As you know, it's a complicated process, this new PUD thing, so you'll be going back to DPZ and then it will go to the full city council. But it's exciting to see a really new modern school being developed here in Elmhurst. I think it's just great. It's great for our community. We know that that's one of the things that attracts people to our community is our schools. So to see us investing in schools and investing in really keeping them up to date and modern I really appreciated your comments about how children learn, which is different. Children no longer learn by rote memory and someone holding a ruler over their knuckles. So we need to have schools that really reflect that. So I think it's a great job. So, all right, good luck. And then look forward to see it occurring. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do.
Take care.
Okay. Eileen, is there any other business that we have?
Yeah, just a couple items. Thank you to all the commissioners for your flexibility with our upcoming meeting schedule. Just to confirm, our next meeting will be Wednesday, January 20th. The agenda item that evening will be the request by the owners of Roberto's for conditional use permits for parking lots. And then our next meeting after that will be January 26th, which is a Tuesday. And that evening we will have 4 variation cases for residential properties in town. And then February 2nd, we are looking at the public hearing for 2 industrial PUD projects. And then we are, and I'm going to send an email to the commissioners. We're going to have a conflict again with a city council meeting due to President's Day for our second meeting in February. So we're going to have to change the date of that second meeting in February, possibly to the following Wednesday or the following Tuesday. But I will send an email out tomorrow to get your availability. And as of right now, we are tentatively hoping not to have cases that night, but to do a plan commissioner training like we did a few years ago. So that is our plan right now. I will keep you posted on the possibility of training, and you can expect an email from me with some information or with some questions about your availability so we can get that second meeting in February rescheduled.
Thank you very much. I want to emphasize, we've been talking about really getting training since we have, I think, 4 new commissioners that have not been really within the last year. That's quite a bit. And we're also going to try to look at and circle back and look at the PUD ordinance. If you remember when John Housel came, talked about it, let's see how it goes. We'll kind of talk about our experience with that. And if we want to make modifications with that, that would be fine. Commissioner Garland.
Yeah, and perhaps this is for the city staff. When we have a large presentation like this that's complex, there's a lot of information, and I realized that some of the material was included in the deck or the information that you dropped off and on board docs. But when there's for me anyway, when they were working through their presentation deck, the information, you could follow it, but it was really small, and it was hard to kind of make some of those kind of core connection points with that. And I think it all kind of came together, but it would have been nice to have a deck, even if it was an 80% deck, to be able to have in front of me anyway, to make that connection with the dialogue that they were going through. So
I totally agree with Commissioner Garland on that. I mean, I think, and I don't think it's city staff's necessarily responsible, but the commissioner needs to be aware of how they present material that, we want to have it. They live with it, night and day for months before they come here. But, we're all looking at this material fairly, for some of the first time. So it would be really helpful for them to do. Commissioner Uditsky.
One question on the PUD and the standards, and I want to commend Commissioner Burns. I think you did a great job going through it. In particular, I appreciate, rather than going through each individual one, I think you kind of summarized. But Chair Rose, maybe you can give a little bit of guidance. When do we need to go through each individual standard? When can we, this seemed warranted where we could just talk generally, about the project. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
My thought, and I can talk about this as well, is that I think generally to do a more, I'm going to use the term expedited, is fine, where we don't have to go through each and every one, especially in something like this where you're replacing a school with a school. So, or as Commissioner Pittman says, pavement with pavement, that's reasonable. But I think when we see something that is a really significant departure from use on a particular site, or something that is has issues in it that are more problematic because it's newer, I think then it's might behoove us to go through them in more detail. That's kind of in my mind the template that I would have about that. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts about it. Does that make sense to you, Commissioner Burns?
Yeah, I think what I was trying to do, and it might have been a little ad hoc-ish. I think I thought of doing this previously, but the plan development standards, actually any of the standards, whether it's variation, just a straight conditional use, or the full plan development, just because we have all the standards doesn't mean that each standard is going to be as important in each case, that we have to go through all of them. So that's why I focused on, I think it was number 6 and 7 for the plan development. That was parking and traffic, and then the buffering.
Yeah, and I'm completely fine with that. I just thought that the attorney had advised us in the past to, to walk through each one individually.
I think we have some freedom in that by saying, look, if any of the other commissioners, because we have it in writing from the applicant. So if any of the commissioners have some disagreement with that or want some further elucidation of any of those points, then that allows us to be able to open it up. So I think we have some freedom in this.
Right. If we discuss this further with, if we have a session on PUD, one thing that occurs to me is that if you say, I've considered all 7 of the standards for a conditional use, and I think they're met, have you effectively included them all?
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember I had an appraisal friend who's no longer with us who testified a lot as an expert witness. And he never said this in testimony, but he used to say to us, well, I just tell them that I've considered the sun, the moon, and the stars. I've considered everything. But to what extent you have to read every word of each standard. And actually it wouldn't take that much longer to actually do that. But we'll see.
But I think we have to take note that we are considering them all. But
yes.
I think that's what's critical, and the attorney would agree with us that we consider them all. They've met it. But these 2 in particular, we want to pull out and highlight. And I think that is responsible and professional, and probably is also expedites the process enough. So, I think some of our concerns about the PUD, we've had quite a few of them. And, we may have been, made a type 2 error by including more in PUD than we really may have needed to do that. For example, did we really need to have Community Church be a PUD? Did we really need to have Timothy Christian be a PUD? They had to be because of their size, but are we being too inclusive as opposed to too exclusive? We might have been too exclusive before. We may be erring on the side now of being too inclusive. But that's one of the things I think we'll talk about when we review the PUD standards with John Housel. So it's a good point. The other thing I'd like to say is that we are having a lot of meetings now in January and February, but it's in some ways it's the way the schedule goes. But if you remember, we ended up having to cancel a number of meetings earlier this year. And I suspect January, February, and this may hold through with March and April, we may see that we're having more meetings then. And for that, I really thank everybody. Thank you for your time in doing that. On some ways, it's, it may seem easier to do if you can do it by Zoom. I don't see in the foreseeable future that we will change the format of this meeting and go back to in-person. I don't see that in the near future. My hope is that, all things being equal, we'll be able to do more of that by summer. Don't know, but I would not plan on that for February. I wouldn't plan on it for March, to be honest with you. So, we have to be concerned about safety of all of you, safety of our staffs, and safety of the folks who come in for public comment, as well as a petitioner. And I applaud all of you for, dealing with Zoom and WebEx and whatever else we've had to deal with. It's, it's got its own challenges, but thank you. So our schedule probably is going to be a little busier in the next couple months. So, but thanks to all of you for rising up to the occasion and doing it. So. Anything else, Eileen, that you have?
No, we will be more proactive and try and get the applicants' presentations when we send out your packets the Thursday or Friday before the meeting. And for the conversation on going through the standards, that's something we can talk about with our own attorneys and include that in the training as well.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved. All right. Susan McQuaid seconds. So Eileen, you'll need to call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Ujitsky.
Yes.
Commissioner McQuaid.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Garland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pittman.
Yes.
Chair Rose.
Yes. All right. We are adjourned. We will